So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We're incredibly excited to start this series we're calling the Invest in Peace series. Very excited to do this in partnership with the, sorry, there's a fire truck going behind me, so I don't know if that's in my noise and distracting. So we're excited to have this program, the Jewish Community Relations Council of St. Louis in partnership with the Israel Center at the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. And really especially excited to start this off, our very first one, with Givat Haviv International School, which I just want to say that I had the great privilege of talking with Claire and with Nuri, with some of the founders of this incredible program and some of their amazing students just a few weeks ago, and was beyond blown away by what you all are doing. And so I'm just so excited to get to share it with the rest of all of you. So just so that you have a bit of the order of what's going to happen, I'll do a brief introduction and pass it over to Claire, who will speak about the school and introduce these incredible students. At any point, you can post questions to me in the chat. I will share those questions with Claire potentially as we go, or else we'll do it at the end. We'll have more time for questions and answers. I know you'll just be absorbed in their stories themselves, but we do welcome your questions and answers in the chat. And I think we'll dive right in. So, well, actually, let me just say, right, the idea of this Invest in Peace series is to really highlight organizations and individuals on the ground within Israel who are doing people-to-people peace-building efforts. And I think Givat Haviv is just doing some of the best work that I've been exposed to. So Givat Haviv International School, it's in northern Israel. It's a co-ed boarding high school that brings together promising young students from diverse communities and varying economic backgrounds. Over 3 years, they're developed as leaders for cross-cultural cooperation and conflict resolution through a unique approach blending academic excellence with emotional intelligence. And I'm just going to say that as the introduction, but you guys are going to say it and you're going to tell your stories better than I ever could. So let me stop and pass it over to Claire. Claire, who has been with the school from its inception, has been one of the instrumental people in bringing the school to fruition. Claire, tell us your story.
Sure. So hi, everybody. First of all, thank you to the JCRC for this great opportunity. We're really honored to be the first, is it the first in the series of Invest in Peace? And thank you very much. And thank you for doing this series. With everything that's going on in the world, it's lovely to see something that's so positive about this region. So, you know, it's interesting hearing you read that, Rory, because I actually wrote it. It's from our website. And the thing about this project is it is something so incredibly positive that is coming out of Israel at the moment. It is I'm going to just go from the beginning. It is an English-speaking high school, 2 years, now 3 years. We've just opened a 10th grade. And very, very loosely, 25%, a quarter of the students are Israeli Arabs, a quarter of the students are Israeli Jews, and half the students are international students from all over the world. And the idea behind the school is to bring in a completely diverse group of people to give them fantastic education through the International Baccalaureate diploma. But much more importantly, in my opinion, to give them skills in conflict resolution, in mediation, in listening skills, in understanding each other and hearing each other's stories. And the idea is that these skills that they're getting through the 2 full years at the school, now 3 years, the idea is that they will take these skills with them into their next stages of life and way beyond. The school is just gone into its 4th year. It's a real baby school. And we started, very briefly, 4 years ago, we sat down, 4 of us, and we said, we want to create new leaders in Israel. We want to create leaders amongst the Jewish and Arab population here, people who understand how to work together, how to celebrate their differences and understand there's much more that they have in common than that separates them, and how to give them those skills so that we can have a more equitable and better future here. And we thought, how are we going to do this? And we realized we needed to have excellent education. So we spoke to the International Baccalaureate, and we were accredited even before the school was opened. And we knew we needed to we wanted to make it international, so that, and English speaking, so it wasn't just the Jews and the Arabs together, but somehow that they were kind of hosting international students. And the advantage of that, we were particularly looking at students, many of them from conflict zones, because we wanted the local students to understand that, yes, we live in a conflict zone and there is this ongoing conflict, but there are conflicts all over the world. And the one here is not necessarily the most intractable or the hardest to solve. And in fact, you know, when you have students from Armenia and Turkey, or one of our students you'll hear from Deng from South Sudan, you understand, and they understand, that there are conflicts all over. And so we really feel that, so we started it 3 years ago. We've had 2 graduating classes, and we really feel that the impact is getting out, that the way that we're working is we're bringing in communities from, particularly across the US, people who are partnering with us, who are getting excited about the mission of bringing together these young people. We have interfaith groups and we have Jewish groups, and everybody feels kind of invested in the school and what we're trying to do to try and create leaders, not just in this region, but actually really across the world. And it's coming out of Israel. And I kind of feel like maybe I'll stop there quickly, just to tell you that we're setting up new relationships now with Morocco and with Sri Lanka and with Northern Ireland. And the idea again is to spread this GHIS idea of diversity and leadership. And one other thing I'll tell you before we go, in fact, before we move on, we're also working with the African American community, some youth from Memphis, Tennessee, which is really interesting. I think maybe you students will talk about it in a minute. So that's a very, very quick start from me, and please feel free later to ask any questions. But the best way to hear about this school is through our students. And so we have here today 4 of our wonderful students and alumni. We have Alma and Jana, who are our 12th grade students, and we have Mira and Deng, who have just graduated the school. And I think, do you want to start? I'm looking at you first, Alma. Do you want to introduce, why don't you all 4 introduce yourself very briefly so we can contextualize it? And then if each one of you could tell us how you came to the school and kind of the key things for you that you'd like to share with the group. And we're trying to tell the story of GHIS, okay? So Alma, why don't you start?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Alma Cohen. I'm from Kibbutz Ramat HaShofet, which is Megiddo Regional Council, which is our sister. So I'm very excited to be here. And I'm also in the process of applying to the gap year program of the Jewish agency. Maybe I will be able to come to St. Louis. So I'm going to share a bit about how I came to the school and about what I learned here so far. So in my kibbutz and in my area, we have only one high school that everyone go to, and we all kind of live the same, in the same way, in the same road. We go to the same school and we do the same things in the afternoon, and we speak the same language when we are from the same religion. And I felt like I have more to explore. And I went to a summer school in England in the summer of 2019. And then I was kind of, I saw the international experience more closely, and I decided that this is what I want to do. So I founded this school, GHIS, and I just feel like I'm going to share some experience, I think, later after everyone will introduce themselves. But I think the main thing that I learned here is that I have I have power over my people, over my opinions, and over my community, and I want to share what I learn here every day, and that I don't have to fully agree with someone in order to understand them or to be friends with them. So I think this is really important. And yeah.
Jana, you want to introduce yourself and say how you came to the school and the keynote?
Okay. So hello everybody, thank you all for joining. I'm Jana, and I'm a Palestinian student living in the country. I'm from a place that it's in the north of the country near Nazareth. And my story can relate a little bit with Alma. I was from all my life, I've been in the same village and in the same school with the same people. And I always wanted to change. I always wanted to go out of my comfort zone and know different perspective and know different people, so I could know myself better in a way. So I was looking for actually a schools abroad of the country, and I found the school on Facebook and I applied. And I know about the IB. I know about the IB diploma and baccalaureate from the school. From academic side, this is the best. It's a better education system and curriculum than where I was. And yeah, I came to the school. And do you want me to share a little bit like experience, like Alma said?
You can share, sure. You just speak, and again, you can talk to each other as we go as well. But once we've kind of introduced each one of you, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the great thing about the school that in the room there is one Arab Palestinian student, one Jew, and one international. And luckily, I'm with Alma this year. We chose each other in the 12th grade. We will have the opportunity to choose our roommates, sorry. And this is an amazing opportunity to actually deal with different stuff and to know each other as a persons and humans first, leaving all of the conflict stuff and political issues. And that's great.
And is it always harmonious, you two, or do you find, or maybe you can talk about when you came last year, did you find that that was a challenge, or?
So at the beginning of the first year, it was hard adapting and adjusting to a whole new boarding school, but I guess I dealt with it really good, and the school was really supportive and the counselors, so I didn't face a lot of difficulties with roomies.
And Alma?
I think my biggest learning process in the school about the conflict, or about myself in the conflict, was during May, when we had this military situation, and the atmosphere on campus was very tense, not because things happen actually on campus, it's just because each one of us represents something different. If we want to, and if we don't, then we represent our opinions. And it was very tense because some international students that didn't really know the situation were very affected by social media, and their parents were worried, and it was all very kind of weird feeling to live in this place where you have this situation right now and you need to deal with this, where almost no one agrees with you on the same thing. And I think the school handled this in a way where we had this conversation circles where we asked from other students what we would like to get as their friends, as their community, and we all said how we can help each other in this situation. I think this was my biggest learning process, because then I came back to my room with my Palestinian roommate and I had to be all normal, and it was a learning process of how to live with someone that doesn't necessarily think like you, but we learned it best.
We may come back to this later. Mira, I'm going to ask you now and make it clear where you are now, and please as well.
Sure thing. So hi, I'm Mira. I'm from the US, as you can probably tell. I guess my finding GHIS story is a little bit different. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland, if you're familiar. If you know anyone, we can play Jewish geography later. I grew up in synagogue, and went to, am in the Reconstructionist stream of Judaism, if you know about it. And I was like a synagogue kid. So I was like, twice a week. And then I ended up going to, I went to a sleepaway camp for 10 years. And then when I was 16, I went on the trip that all of the Jewish American teenagers go on when they go to Israel. And so that was the summer before my junior year of high school. I did not go into that summer planning on moving to Israel. But while I was there, my youth group, the group I was with went to, we visited Givat Haviva, and we sat, this was like August, right? Like this was August and school was starting in September. Just to lay out the time frame a little bit. And we sitting in the library in Givat Haviva, and we had this panel of Arab Israeli women talking, just speaking to this group of 16-year-olds about their status, their citizenship, and they both happened to be Muslim, and so they talked about being Muslim women in Israeli society, and just it's weird for me to talk about because it seems like it was yesterday, but also that was 3 years ago. And anyways, that moment was really, that was a big moment for me, just being there that day. I think we were honestly only there for 2 hours, but I remember just thinking, reflecting, I guess, I'm a pretty talkative person, and I like asserting myself. And I remember when they asked us for questions, these two women at the end of their presentation, they asked us for questions, and I was so floored because I had absolutely no frame of reference for everything they had just told. I felt like they were talking to me personally, even though that was definitely not the case. It was a really humbling experience for me, and I felt like I had thought, I'd always been in public schools, and not with a lot of other Jewish kids, and I kind of became a representative of Israel in a lot of those situations, and I just had kind of assumed that I knew everything, and I had so clearly did not. And at the end of their presentation, Nurit, who I don't know if all of you have met, but she came and talked to my group for approximately 7 minutes and was like, look, we have this school here. And I was like, great, I'm doing it. And this was August, so school was starting in 3.5 weeks. And I applied to the school. I think I started my application while I was still in Israel. Didn't tell my parents. Then I got home and we had some big conversations. And yeah, but that best decision I've made recently. So in the past 3 years, I don't regret it at all. Yeah. So anyways, I graduated in May. And I'm still in Israel now. I am doing this, so I'm in college and I'm doing this dual BA program with Tel Aviv University and Columbia University. So it's the first 2 years are in Israel, and I'll finish in New York City. So yeah, that's me.
Deng, are you with us? Deng? I think we seem to have lost Deng. I'm hoping he'll come back very soon.
I'm here with you guys. Wait, just a second.
You are here.
Can you guys see me now?
Yes.
Just I'm traveling, I don't want to interrupt you guys with the movement and all the stuff, so I just placed one picture. I'm sorry.
Where are you? You're on a bus?
Yeah, I'm currently on a bus, yeah.
Okay. So Deng, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? It's
So
kind of
as
noisy
Claire
there.
said, as Claire said already, my name is Deng Mayer, and I'm like from South Sudan. I'm 20 years old, and I'm gonna answer how I came to the school. I probably my history is I grew up in Israel as a child here as a refugee, and I finished my elementary school here in Israel. And in 2012, my family was deported back to South Sudan after South Sudan gained independence from Sudan. And my dream was always to come back to Israel and finish high school and serve the army like other of my friends, whom I grew up and studied with in Israel, who were Israelis basically. So through GHIS 2018, my dream became true basically, And the 2 years of experience as a student that I had was, I think, were the most important 2 years in my life, whereby I became tolerant. I really came from a very close community, and luckily, when I arrived at GHIS, I had a roommate who was an Arab, and the other one who was a Jewish Israeli. I was only used to Israelis Jewish, but I wasn't used to Arabs. And then he was also from LGBTQ members, the Arab guy, and I was very intolerant to these things at the beginning, when I just arrived. But the 2 years that I spent with them in GHIS were the years that just made me very tolerant and very open to ideas that I don't understand. Not necessarily to hate it if I don't understand it, but to work towards it and make it a better thing in my life. And this is it.
Deng, I know that you are on a bus. Are you getting to your destination soon?
Yes, I'm on my way actually to Givat Haviva now. It's 15 minutes, depending on the jump.
Okay, because we really don't hear. If you could ask people on your bus to be quieter, is that possible?
It's uncontrollable here. No. Yeah.
Okay, so I think if you just stay on the line, but I think that we'll try and come back to you when it's a little bit because I think one of the things that I think people would be really interested in is your journey, really. And
yeah.
Okay, there's nothing we can do, I don't think. Okay. Oh, it's a little quieter. Do you want to just tell a little? Oh, no, you've gone now. Okay, are you there? No. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about your original journey to Israel, and because that's very, very interesting for the people who are here. Let's see how.
Listen, it's a very long story, and I will try to make it very short.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah. So basically, I was born into a refugee family in Sudan. Basically, my parents were from the southern part of Sudan, which is basically Black Africans, non-Muslims. And I was born during the civil war that took place between the northern people and the southern people. And my parents were persecuted for being non-Muslims and Africans, and they escaped to Egypt from Sudan. And in 2003, when we moved to Egypt, we stayed there until 2006, and then my parents decided to flee Egypt and come to Israel for the same reason, just being Africans and non-Muslims. So they were always targeted for being the foreigner, basically, that side. So my parents decided to take the journey through Sinai desert, and it was very scary for me. I was 6 years old by then, and my parents and other South Sudanese families decided to escape Egypt, and we made it. Can somebody see me?
Yes. Yes, carry on.
Just 1 minute.
No, carry on.
Yes. Yeah, I'm on my destination. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay.
So my family and other South Sudanese family decided to flee to Israel through the Sinai desert. And during the journey, I remember I broke one of my arms, and I didn't know Hebrew by then. Just knew how to speak, my local language and communicate to my parents and all this stuff. And as I broke my arms during the journey, we luckily fell into the hands of the IDF. And I remember a soldier approaching me with a huge gun. I was scared as hell. I was this is my end. Because we were told, if you guys fall in the hands of any armed groups, it's your end. There's nothing here to spare you and all the stuff. So this soldier realizes that I broke one of my arms, and then he decides to take me to hospital for treatment and all the stuff. So he takes me there, and I start getting my treatment. And that fellow soldier who took me to the hospital a couple of days later, comes and visit me. And, he brings to me, some gift like bamba, some snacks, Israeli snacks, and some toys and all the stuff. And, my smile starts getting back to a stranger that I didn't know. This is the first time, I get to smile towards a soldier or somebody who's strange, who's not completely, like, in any way resembling me and doesn't speak even the same language as me. So I felt like, this when life came back to me, because also in Egypt, I couldn't like go to a normal school, like, because I'm Black, and I would study from home just for being a foreigner and unwelcome, basically as a refugee in Egypt. So this is it. This is how I made it to Israel.
Okay, thank you. And just tell us, just before you go, because it looks like you're going to maybe have to, are you okay? Are you at Givat Haviv now?
Yes. No,
okay.
I'm here.
Okay, you're nearly there. So just tell us a little bit. You stayed a third year at the school, didn't you?
Yeah.
How come? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Your third year at the school, what were you doing?
My third year, basically, it's a year whereby, I started developing or promoting my leadership skills, because when I was a student here, I just like mainly focused on myself and, things that are happening around. But now becoming a member of the staff of the school made me think differently, made me think in a way that, I have greater responsibility than I was a student, because I had like to give example in every sector or everything I do in my life. So as, students take, the path that I took and all this stuff. And I think it's the year whereby I truly developed my leadership skills. I became more outspoken. I also became more like, giving ideas or leading projects or things like this. And now because of such a year that, I experienced in GHIS as, boarding staff, I'm kind of opening a new club in my university. I see called Stand With Us. This club basically, the aim of me wanting to open this club is to give Israel a better image on global stage. A lot of people who are not really from Israel or didn't come to Israel don't really know how life is in Israel. And whenever people mention Israel, they be like, some negative ideas and all this stuff. But I want to show the positive side and all this stuff. I want to eliminate all these things that, pop on social media's anti-Israeli posts and all the stuff, and just show the good side and all this stuff. And with the help of one of my mentors from GHIS, we're running on it. We're working on it, and the university is very positive towards this. And I think this is something that was really driven by the year that I spent here as, a staff member, and got to understood things clearer and, develop things that I had passion for.
Good for you, good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, then. Alma, Jana, you've talked a little bit about your rooms. Tell us a little bit about your experience with the whole pandemic. What happened at the school? And Mira, Mira and Deng, you were there too. I'll just go back very quickly and say that we started the school, as I say, this is our fourth year, and a year and a half in, the pandemic began. We have students from 24 different countries, including countries that are quite hard to travel to and from. We have kids from Ethiopia and from Liberia and from South Sudan, as you see. We had a really, it was thrown at us. These students were there, they couldn't get back, many of them. And we suddenly had to deal with a situation like the rest of the world, that no one knew how to handle. Now, most schools, children went home and started studying on Zoom. What happened to Givat Haviv, guys? Can you tell us about the school? What happened in the pandemic period at different times? I don't know, Mira, you had a different experience, didn't you? What did you do when it started?
So I mean, like, I guess in March of my junior year, like that's when things started shutting down. And Well, I mean, like GHIS stayed open. It's like international schools. So there's like this whole community of like international high schools and everyone's like connected on Facebook. And I don't know if you know about this, but everyone was like, my school shut down. Like everyone had to go home. And GHIS didn't close. Like some students chose to go home. Like I remember, like there were in my grade there were 3 American students. So I'm one of the 3, and we all of us, like the 3 of us, were like, COVID hadn't really gotten bad in the US yet. It was about 3 weeks behind, and so I ended up going home. And like some other students went home too, but like Claire was saying, some people couldn't get home, like actually couldn't get home, and GHIS was like, great, you're staying here, we have class here. And like things, I mean, like I remember joining like we started Zoom like immediately, and I remember like being in the airport with my friend like on my way home and joining a class because we had already, like, our computer science teacher had already like figured out Zoom and no one else had. But yeah, I mean, like I think COVID really didn't, like, honestly, I don't really feel like it changed so much about how GHIS really is. Like I mean, personally, like I got much more involved. Like I felt like because I was away, I wanted to be more involved in school. And so I like, that's like, I did this, in GHIS, we have like student government essentially. And we like, I mean, everyone was kind of spread out, and we had student government elections virtually. And like, I ended up like going on, like becoming one of the student government officials. And like it was me and 3 other students, we would have like meetings like all the time just because we like wanted to talk to each other, and we had ideas about things to do virtual, like, like it's a community. And also we're young and we are good at like, I think it was really natural for us to like okay, cool, we'll all FaceTime each other, like, I mean, I really don't think COVID changed so much about like, I mean, like, I guess physically it changed things, but like the meaning of what a community is and like how we all work together, I think COVID kind of exemplified that.
So because we're one cohort below, we came 1 year later, so the school was already open when we started 11th grade, but we couldn't, so basically the local students can go home. They need to stay on campus 1 weekend a month, and they have optional to stay or to leave back home all of the other weekends in the month. So for us, it was the opposite. We had to stay on campus 3 weekends, and we got to go home like 2 days in a month. And this was very challenging because you leave the house for a month, and you come back for 2 days, and you come back for a month again. It was very challenging, but I think looking back at it now, our class is so close together. We're like one big family because we're 50 in our class, something like 50. And I'm in a situation where I can talk to each one of them, and I love each one of them. And I believe that it was because we were kind of forced to stay here for a month, and it made us just so close to each other. And it was because of COVID. So it did change things, and it did make things a little more challenging, but I think this is the reason that we're so close together. And yeah.
Can I, Jeanne, I'd just like to ask you something. You come from a Palestinian, you're a Palestinian citizen of Israel. How did your community both feel about you coming to the school, and how would you say they felt, or how with the violence in May, what was their reaction? Were they worried? Were they afraid for you to come back? Please tell us a little bit about that, because our friends in America, it must have, looking in on what was going on, it must, they don't have the same perspective.
Okay, so at first, when I came to the school, before coming and after telling my bigger family and friends, this idea was really, really new for them because I'm the first one in my village in a young age, or at least in the whole area or territory in a young age, going to a boarding school and leaving the house. And not just a boarding school, it's an international boarding school. So my parents actually didn't have any problem with it. They were always supporting me, and my family, the bigger family, also supported me. The thing is, the community wasn't really accepting it at the beginning. They were a little bit afraid about me, and because it's a whole new idea to the community, they didn't have any experience with anybody from before. And connecting with
What were they
the
afraid
events that
of,
happened
Diana? Shana, what do you think they were afraid of, if you're honest?
Okay, so if you know, an Arab community is a little bit closed community, not that open-minded. They were afraid of me like getting lost in somehow, or being affected by different communities and go out of the rule or the right way. And they were afraid about me just having a little like harmful things or something. But they, in the end, they saw the result, that I am, and I'm representing who I am, and in the better way, in a good way. And they had the full trust in me and to change stuff to the positive way, to raise awareness, and to actually lead people in my community as they saw a positive change in me. Connecting to the events in May, it was really, really hard for me as a person. Being in a school and hearing all of this news and being far away from my family, and it just really was a tremendous, like really mentally not okay period. But the good thing is the school actually dealt with it in a most perfect way, where we have the space to talk and the space to experience our feelings, our options, opinions, and everything. So it was really, really supportive, and it helped our mental health to continue in a good way, and also by academics to balance it. And I felt that actually the school is giving the space to me as a person first to explore myself in different aspects, in a leadership skills and many different things. And secondly, I felt that the school is just a small island away from a big ocean, that it has this supportive environment, and just everybody's together. We're a shared society and a shared community, that everybody feel that we're equal, and we're just humans there, and we're dealing with each other as humans and as friends and as a high school students, away from all of the negative aspects and perspectives.
And Gianna, do you take that back to your community, do you think, when you go back? Do you bring the stories of the school back to your community? Do you think it's impacting on your family and community in any way?
Definitely. So what I think is me growing as a person in the school and having different perspective and experiencing and dealing with many people from different like nationalities and such a diversity in the community, and going back to my community, telling them the different stories and my experience at the school would actually create hope to my community and to other people and me, and in order to change the future, in order to be a better human beings.
Wow.
I think a way that we can really see how complex the situations can be here sometimes is that we can have full-on discussion about politics. People are screaming, fighting, not agreeing, yes agreeing. There's very like argument about he thinks that and she thinks this, but the both of their opinions are like morphed too. They're all there, like their opinions are being heard, and then the argument stops. We go to lunch and we sit together at the table like nothing happened, and we continue with our life. Like we have arguments. It's like naturally that we disagree on things like politically, because we come from different places and we think different, and this is the whole point of the school. But then we learn how to like live together with this. Like, I will not ignore someone or not sit with them at lunch because I don't think like them. And this is actually the opposite. I want to be with them and I want to learn about them and I want to understand them, even if I don't agree. And yeah.
Just quickly, I mean, Alma, Mira, I'm not sure who would like to answer this, but the shared memorial, I think, is a very interesting story to tell, and it's very specific to Givat Haviv. And I just want to give a little bit of context to our friends. And I don't know how much you guys know about Israel, but there is a period in May where we have the Holocaust Remembrance Day and the Israel Independence Day and the Day for Fallen Soldiers and so on. And it's a very, very emotional time for everybody, but there are also other things going on. And we knew when we started the school, this was going to be a potentially difficult period to deal with, you know, with particularly with Palestinian and Jewish students. And so we asked the students to handle it themselves. And who would like to say what you guys came up with? Because I think it's marvelous. So
I can start.
I can say.
Okay, please.
So,
okay.
I was a part of the team that created these two events. We took the pattern of the country of Israel, how we do it here. That there's one day for the memorial for the Israeli soldiers, and then the next day we have the Independence Day, which is moving from sadness and grief to happiness and to celebrating what we have. So we took this pattern and we had two events. One was commemoration of loss ceremony, where basically everyone that wanted to share. We had from the Vietnam War, we had from the Nakba, Armenians shared, and basically what we did was showing how you can relate to others' emotions without actually having to experience the thing that happened to this country or to this nation. And basically everyone came up and shared a story. For example, Jana shared her grandfather's story, and it was very emotional and very interesting event. Everyone shared their own. We had the commemoration of loss for everyone, and it wasn't for comparison. It was more to understand or to relate. And then the next day we had Jana. Do you want to say what you guys did the next day?
Jana, what happened the next day?
Okay, just I want to add a little bit on the first day. So I shared my grandfather's story on what happened in the Nakba. And just to mention, in my previous school or in all in Arab schools living in the country, we don't actually learn about ourselves or our identity or the Nakba in general or any political stuff. So in the school, actually, it was the first time for me explaining about something that is related to my nationality. And because I didn't learn about it from before, and I came here explaining it. So I learned it also by myself. And I felt that there's actually the space that I can speak and I can express something that relates to me, where everybody accepts and everybody listens and relate to. And the day after, like a sad event, and everybody just a little bit got emotional. The next day, I did me and my friend, other Palestinian student, we organized a big Palestinian wedding, as we chose bride and groom, and we danced and we had traditional food, and it was really amazing with traditional music. So after a sad event, we had something positive that everybody participated in from different nationalities and backgrounds in the school.
That's lovely. Okay, I have two more questions for you guys. Deng, if you had one wish in the whole world, what would it be?
I think, is to reverse time back and give the generations above us such an opportunity that I had, because it really changed me, and I think you guys didn't have it.
Okay, Deng, that's a great answer, but that wasn't the one I was looking for. What would Deng want? What would be your biggest wish for you now? What would you like for your future?
Army. Go to the army, give back to the state of Israel, as just everybody does. I feel like, Israel gave me something that, really saved my life. It's a country that I really love. And, when any decision I take, I always think about Israel a lot, and it's my second home, if I want to call it this way.
Yeah, we very much hope that one day you'll go back to South Sudan and implement all the things that you've learned along the way. But if we could keep you in Israel, we'd be very happy as well. And I want to ask the four of you, you don't know what I'm asking, but when it comes to GHIS, when we talk about what's the most central place in North America, what would you guys answer? If it was Nurit, what place would be? Go on, Mira.
If you ask Nurit, she would say Santa Barbara is the center of the universe.
Santa Barbara is the center of the universe. And I'm saying this for a reason. One of the things that we've been doing is we've been building relationships with people, particularly in the United States. And we call them our hubs of support. Santa Barbara has really, really become a very important place to us. It came through a synagogue, and the community are so absolutely involved in the school. Certainly financially, they make donations, but equally importantly, they are helping. We have a group of volunteer English teachers. We have people who they have adopted one of our students who now lives in Santa Barbara and goes to the community college there. It is a really wonderful a wonderful relationship. They're coming to Givat Haviv. Did you know this in March, guys? They're coming in March. We're going to have to be very nice. And this is something that we're really very much enjoying, because it sort of takes the idea of GHIS and it sort of plants it in places around the world. Was any of you involved in the Memphis project? Were any of you involved in
last year?
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because this is another thing about the connections we have with communities abroad. So tell us a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind, Alma.
We had a Zoom session with their school in Memphis, where we were in breakout rooms with each room with a different topic. And basically we just combined together our opinions. It was about culture and about identity.
You were not in the organizing group, I'm thinking.
No, but
the idea behind it is that we got a group of our students got together with a group of young people from Memphis to look at the whole issue of social action, particularly in the context of COVID and the pandemic. And they looked and they came together on 2 or 3 occasions, and then on Martin Luther King Day, they had this thing that Alma's talking about, which was all coming together as the 2 communities. And this is another really interesting part of it as well, because the people in the young people of Memphis had no connection with any internationals. And through GHIS, they connected with internationals from around the world and with Israel. And a lot of them were were Christians as well. So it was very, very interesting. So I don't know if I've answered, if anyone wants to ask any more questions of the students, or whether we want to let our students go. And if anybody has any questions for me afterwards about the school and how it runs, should we do that, Rory? How would you like to move ahead?
Sure. Yeah, we can just use the last, couple of minutes that we have.
I think, can we let our students go, because they've got various things to do?
Yeah, I know it's late. Thank you all so much for sharing your story and being here. Just so inspiring, all of the incredible work that you're doing. So grateful for you all putting yourselves out there, both in joining the school and in sharing with all of us. So thank you. I think we'll wish you all a good night. And I know, Claire, we can just use the last 5 minutes for you to just talk a little bit more about the school and what we can all do in the United States.
Bye, Yol. Thank you so much. You can go
you.
to the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank
Lovely
you
to see
all.
Bye. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have any specific questions for me, but I think there are so many things to talk about when it comes to this project, and I just really just touched on them before. You know, things, you know, the idea of all these people, the diversity of it, and again, you know, you can't really talk about it, and Alma is possibly not a very good example because she actually was brought up in kibbutz, which tends to be very kind of accepting of difference. But we have 2 students who've come from the West Bank, Jewish students. We also have Palestinian students. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. We have, last year we had 2 students, one from East Jerusalem, a Muslim boy who'd only been to boys' schools, and we had a Jewish girl from the Golan Heights who was religious, and she'd only ever been to girls' schools, and they became great friends. And one of the things they ended up doing was she went to visit him in Jerusalem, and they went to the Dome of the Rock together. This is a boy who had never come across girls before, and a girl who'd never come across Arabs before, and they remain good friends. And so things can happen in our school that are most unexpected. And we do not want just the usual suspects. We want the young people who are kind of set in their ways, who come from perhaps extreme communities. That's okay, because actually if everybody is singing from the same hymn sheet, then nothing will change. So we really do look particularly here for a diverse community of Israelis. Are there any, I'm just seeing if there are any questions coming.
So Claire, I think, you know, as we're kind of embarking on this series, and as we're thinking about like what's our role in relationship, right, as a US American community, who are also, you know, really pained by the violence that we see, you know, and I think particularly, you know, you talked about the conflict that took place in May, but I think what was also really striking from us in America was seeing the way that the violence emerged in shared cities, you know, where we have been optimistic about the work that people like you are doing. So, you know, from where you sit, like, what do you see kind of our role in supporting peace, in helping to support efforts like yours? You know, where is the change that's happening? And also, I just got another question. So while I have the microphone, I'll throw it in also, right? How do you all as a school, how do you work with the families to build trust? So like you showed us these incredible students who are so amazingly brave. We sort of asked about pushback, right? But they're still young. If their parents tried to stop them from going, I imagine, you know, their parents. So clearly you have to be doing something also in the community to be building this trust.
Totally. I mean, one of the things that the students do, and it's part of the International Baccalaureate, is actually service. They have to give service and volunteer. Volunteerism is very important. And again, it was a little bit lost because of the pandemic, but our students would go into the local community. They would go as groups and they would teach English to local kids. They would go into local I don't know how you call it, old age homes or senior homes or whatever, and they would go as a group. And for many of these people, it would be the first time that they had seen a Jew or they had seen an Arab. And this is very, very important to us, but equally working with the families. We have very close connections with the families. Our principal, Yuval Dvir, is amazing, and he is speaking to them all the time. And you can imagine the calls that we get all the time. I mean, you can also imagine when the rockets are flying in from Gaza, you know, our Vietnamese parents are beside themselves, or our American parents. I mean, they don't know what to do. So we are constantly speaking to them. And it is a process. We're now starting a whole alumni program. And our alumni will be working together. This is something we're just developing now. We're a pretty brand new school. It's 4 years old. And we will be doing programs with the families. So how can you support? Clearly there is, you know, I mean, I could give you the figures if you wanted, but I don't know if that's kind of relevant. but we have to raise a significant amount of money every year. So there is certainly the opportunity to make a donation to the school, and we would be very grateful to that. But as I say, it is more than that. I feel, we all feel that more than, you know, people writing a check, which is very nice, we're really looking for kind of buy-in to what we're doing. And maybe, for example, we have a group in Philadelphia, for example, that was set up by a pastor and a rabbi, and they work together in their community and try and sort of reflect the school in their community. And in fact, you know, the pastor's daughter's coming to the school next year, which is wonderful. The other thing, of course, which is hugely important, is to imagine that your children can come to our school. Give us your children for 2 years. Send 2 people from St. Louis, and I don't really know what the different side of the tracks are, but send 2 people and let us work with them for 2 years. Let us give them the skills that we know how to do in mediation and listening, and let them come back to your community as GHIS alumni. Let them do programs with your young people. So there are so many ways. You know, the quick one is, yes, go onto our website, and I can give you the website, and you can make a donation, which is marvelous. But the longer term option is like, let's be partners. Let's make this a place that you can send your. I mean, it's a different Israel experience. It's not sending them to a Jewish school. It's sending them to an international school in Israel that is reaching out to the whole world. There are so many ideas. This is hopefully the beginning of the conversation. Oh, thank you for putting the website on there. And yeah, you know, and I know that someone at some point said, would we speak to their high school? Absolutely. Our students like nothing more than presenting the school and talking about their experiences. So absolutely, anything is possible. We have one of the things one of the services that they do is we call it our ambassadors group. So we have a group of young people who are involved in outreach. So, you know, whether it's Instagram or whether it's Facebook or whether it's newsletters or whether it's helping with the website and so on. And they simply love to speak to communities on every opportunity. And for us, it's wonderful because we just feel like we're spreading the word, which we're very proud of what's happening in the country. We're very proud of this project, and we want everyone to know about it.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for taking time out of your evening. I'm grateful to everyone who's taken their lunch hour here in St. Louis.
You can give my email as well if you want to. It's Claire KL at GH. I can't write it, can I? I can't write it in the chat. I can send it to you. So Claire KL. I'm just doing this GHIS.
Well, and we had a few people who had to drop off because we're approaching our time, so we can send a follow-up email with all of that information.
Sure.
But thank you so much, Claire, for these incredibly inspiring students, for sharing your story with all of us, and for the amazing work that you're doing. So we're so grateful, and we look forward to hearing more as more and more progresses.
Come visit when you're allowed to.
We all look forward to it. So thank you all for being with us. And you'll be getting more follow-up about our next program next month. But for now, I'll just wish everyone a good remainder of your day, and Claire, a good evening to you.
And to you all, have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Very much, Rory. Bye.